week. I just have to ask you, what's it been like watching this series, which everybody's talking about?
Yeah, first, good to be with you, buddy, as always. I love you, miss you. I hope you're well. Yeah, I was. I heard from so many players. That was probably the best part. Um, I had no idea they had so many behind the scenes, whether it be workout, whether it be sideline, locker room, meeting room. I didn't realize we had all that video footage. I thought it was incredible, and I thought our players did a great job. The only thing that was disappointing is there's so many people that you have Lewis Murphy, you have Chris Leak, you have Pouncey's, you have the best player in maybe college football history, Percy Harvin. There's so many great players. Justin Tradow. I mean, there's just so many guys that you just wish Carlos Dunlap would have been able to. But I know they tried, and they kept. I talked a little bit during the whole process that you have to squeeze everything into those segments, and you know how TV works.
Well, we talked about it beforehand, and I was concerned it was going to be a hit job. You kept assuring me it wasn't going to be that way. And then I saw it, and you know how fans react sometimes. Gator fans loved it. Uh, FSU people, not so much, or whoever. But in our show, which we did all week, it's all they could talk about. And then you got the critics who always got to say, well, they didn't tell this part, didn't tell that part. Urban, as you remember, I was with you a lot during those days. As a matter of fact, in my hand, I hold this book called Urban's Way. And that year, between championships, I was privileged to go inside with the program with you. You guys allowed me to be in there and be in locker rooms and all that. So I think I know a little bit about it. I don't know everything. There's an awful lot of people who think they know everything, who know nothing. But regardless of all that, what I think you did was you took the high road and you said, I'm going to do this thing. And, I'm not the producer of the show, unlike what people think. Well, Urban didn't say this and Urban didn't say, you didn't pick the people. And you just said you asked people to participate. Having said that, the storyline, if you didn't get a few chills watching that, and my two thoughts real quick, and I didn't mean to dominate the conversation, but number one, how hard it was. Oh my gosh. So how hard and what everybody gave and what you gave. And I said this last night on the show. You took bullets, man. You were willing to lay everything out there. You almost cost you your life. I'd say that's pretty much. And then I think the amount of sacrifice, those you just talked about the video that we saw, which you said you'd never seen. That was incredible. I mean, I've never seen a program like that. It was an amazing piece of video. I don't know if you want to call it a documentary, whatever it was. I know Gator fans are buzzed about it. I want to know what it's like for you and what the reaction's been.
The reaction's been phenomenal. I don't read a lot. I've gotten, I don't know, 400 text messages from former players, even Buckeyes. One of my captains sent me a text and said, about how appreciative, that I think that the bottom line is greatness is really, really hard, you know, uh, and it's not for everyone. And so I just grew up in a military family. I just studied the military. My idea was it's called crucible of training, and you make it so hard that it toughens. I know this, buddy. The toughest teams always win, and there's can be a lot of excuses, and we didn't always win. But if you get out tough, you got a problem. If you get out selflessness, you lose. And college football in the SEC at that time, and still at the highest level of football, man, it is dog eat dog. You see it every year, and the Gators going to deal with it this year. I'm hoping, and Brandon Spikes is there. I'm hoping that they are a tough, tough unit. And you have to teach toughness, you have to coach toughness, and then more importantly, you have to have leadership on your team. Like, how about Brandon Saller? Brandon Saller will go down to me as one of the great Florida greats. I know he is a great player, but that was a transition out. We were going from our first year until moving forward, and that was the illogical national champion, 2006. We were going through an offensive transition. Defense was outstanding. They had great players. The previous Coach Zook and his staff recruited so well. But yeah, I watched it a couple times, and once again, The only thing I regret is that not every player got to, because there were some guys on that team that that became incredible leaders. Murphy's one of them. Murphy went from in the doghouse to one of our best leaders in that '08 team.
David Nelson
David Nelson, unbelievable transformation.
came to you and said, "I want to play special teams, get on the field." Look what he did. He only caught some of the most crucial touchdown passes you had. So, what a remarkable thing to be experienced. You must have had. We could do 2 hours right here and talk about it because it's.
Buddy, I've had so many people requesting interview, and I'm not doing it. I'm doing it with you. So
I appreciate that.
I mean, I want to say about 40 I've had requests that I'm just, I'm very loyal to a buddy, and I think this is great.
Full disclosure, Urban, thank you. And I'm going to say this just up front. We talked about it. I didn't know you. You didn't know me. Something clicked the first time I saw you in your first interview. And we talked about this. I don't know what it was. I didn't know you. And you said later that you asked the question, who was that guy in the glasses asking questions? And we didn't have a close personal friendship at anything, but the whole time I just had a feeling, I'm not trying to be a genius here. I told Brady Ackman after the third game, this is the guy. And he almost laughed at me. I said, this is the guy. I think this guy can do it, And I just had a gut feeling about you, Urban, that I heard about you. I'll say this. I'll back out the microphones. I want you to talk. When I was working in Colorado, my friend Irv Brown, who I did some radio with, he would tell me, they got this guy at Colorado State. Yeah. And I said, what about him? He said, he might be the next Bear Bryant. So what do you mean by that? He said, he's a hard ass. I said, really? And he said, yeah. He said, but he's a hell of a coach. His name was Meyer. Okay. Yeah. I remember him talking about that. And we talk about you every now and then. So then I met you and learned, and I followed you at Bowling Green a little bit. And then you told me the stories about what went on with you at Colorado State, the things that you went on there, how Shelley didn't want her to leave Fort Collins. She said, we have to do this. Can we stay here? And then you went, of course, went on to Bowling Green and you'd been at Notre Dame. Anyway, following your career as I did closely, then when you finally arrived, I put the pieces together in my mind a little bit about you. I thought, I wonder if this guy can last. If he can, he might be out of a coach. But to see it on video, and like you said, whoever got those videos or those mat drills, oh my gosh, that was unbelievable. What you had to go through to be a Gator, and then you had to commit again to everything. And you got a guy like Brenden Saller was all in on everything. And then you had Tebow, and the meshing of those two guys and the way that team came together, that's a fabulous story. I know you got to be proud of it.
I am, and like I said, it was to listen to the players speak and to watch. I'm very biased. That's one of the greatest teams in college football history. The '08 team, the '06 team was the most improbable. To think about, we hung on for dear life in '05 when we lost to South Carolina, and I got booed, and the team got booed, and you go 9-3, and the game changing time was when we beat Florida State, a very good Bobby Bowden, a very good Florida State team, and then the recruiting, bam, took off. And that was the transformational time of Florida football. And to see those players come in, our strength coach, Mickey Marotti, became, the number 2 in charge. Charlie Strong, incredible coaching staff. Most of the guys went on to be head coaches. But it's also the wear and tear. I thought that was, pretty real. And never took a day off. There's times we left, but I was never away from the phone, never away from recruiting. And that, I just tried, but I just couldn't do it. And we'd go somewhere, maximum maybe 3 days. I'd go somewhere with the kids and all that, and would try to stay engaged. But I would be recruiting the whole time, or else the manual, plan to win manual, the practice schedules, the fake punts, the offense, the talking to Dan Mullen. Never took a day off, and that was the wear and tear on that was obvious.
I do remember you on Friday nights. Sometimes you take off and go see your kid play football or see a football game, and I think you used to have I think Stacy would drive you out to the game, and you would watch a little bit of it, and right on during the process. And you tried, but there's just not enough urban to go around sometimes. You just can't get there to everything. I wanted to reflect on a couple of real other things that I have with a question. I know you have a time constraint, but I want to get all this out right now while I got you and talking about this. Uh, I remember specifically the night we were on a boat in Longboat Key with the coaching staff. I was privileged to go with you guys, and that's the night of the NFL draft. And you had so many guys going. I think you had 3 first rounders that night. And you were worried sick about Tebow because you're just nervous about him not going in the first round. And remember, we didn't know what was going to happen because in the end, the team we thought were going to take him didn't take him. And I think we were piling in the car when we heard the news that Tebow had been drafted. And it was such a look of joy and for you and on that whole thing is so. I know it must have been a remarkable feeling for you. But what a night to be there with you guys that night in that boat where everybody's watching. You guys are getting them. I don't remember who all got drafted, but 3 guys in the first round. Tebow got drafted, and I remember seeing you get off the boat, and you were standing in the shadows, just reflecting on the whole situation. What a night that must have been for you to watch that.
It was, and it was, I believe, after the '09 season. So there's still that part of your soul was missing because once again, I thought one of the greatest teams in college football history, '08 and '09, and I think Tim said it, Spike said it, Stamper said it, that we missed. We went 13-1. We went undefeated. Our goal was to do something Florida's never done, and that's be undefeated in the SEC. Think about that. And I know Georgia just did it. It tells you how good their team was. So, yeah, it was a great reflective moment to see. One of the great rewards is to see players, capitalize and live their dream, and to see a first rounder, a guy that obviously I feel very strong about that put there. You can't say, I wish Tebow would have done a little bit more for Florida. Can't say that, but you can also say that a bunch of other guys too, and you wish they were mentioned. You wish they would all be first rounders, but obviously that doesn't happen.
I want to say in the remaining time we got that you've been criticized for things, some justified maybe, but most of them not. Who among us hasn't been? Because you sort of polarize people. They can't quite figure you out. You've been so successful, it's 3-time champion, yet they kind of try to find something wrong. You never pulled a punch with me. We've done lots of interviews. This book right here, we did it. I remember we did this book, and there were some things in this book that you probably didn't want to have in there about some of the troubles that came up, but you didn't try to pull a punch with it. And the idea that you somehow orchestrate this Swamp King thing to make you look good in a puff piece is laughable to me because I dealt with you one-on-one, and I know that. And sometimes I can't understand people. I don't understand why do they have this impression of Urban? I don't understand it. And I've literally almost gotten in fistfights about it, So I finally said, time out. I'm not Urban's defense attorney, okay? But I kind of know a little bit about him. And I just think about the day you called me and you were working for ESPN and you decided thought you wanted to coach again, but you didn't want to tell anybody. So you said, come to my house. I went to your house, went back in Lanai, got coffee and a Danish. Shelly was there, and you said, kind of whispered, I think I want to coach again. Now, this is a true story. If I'm dying, I'm dying. And at that point in time, I said, well, when you said, I don't really want to do it right now. I want to wait for a while. I like to do it. I love my job. You showed me the studio. You had ESPN, but I think I've decided I want to coach again. And did I not say to you, Ohio State has got Luke Fickell. That's a pressure chamber, in my opinion. He probably won't last the season. And you didn't say yes or no. He's a good coach. And I said to you, and if he doesn't, Urban, they're coming for you. And you said, I'm not really ready. I said, Urban, you're not going to have a chance to say, be ready. You're going to have to take it because if you want that job, it's going to be handed to you on a silver platter. And what happened, Urban?
Yeah, I remember those days, and I remember that time. And Shelly was very upset. But, I wanted to take some time off and just get my mind and body right from the final couple year and a half at Florida. So, yeah, it turned, I'm from Ohio. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. When they called, it was almost like I knew they went through when you look back now, the nonsense that Jim Tressel went through. I mean, think about that. Someone showed me a picture. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and I look at that, but I try not to. When I started getting in a really good place is when I quit worrying about a guy that's trying to sell papers or trying to and saying things and you read it going, wait a minute, that is not true. That's as far from truth. You saw Brenden James. They did a story on Brenden James getting arrested for buying, I think it was $18 or $20 worth of marijuana, and
Laughable today.
we hammered him. And I spoke to Brenden the other day, and the one thing that I did learn is never to quit on someone. And when you start, someone actually said to me one time, "You need to make an example out of that kid." And I almost got in a fight with that person. Said, "That's someone's kid you're talking about. Make an example for who? For fans or for someone that's writing a paper about it or something? Absolutely not. These are human beings. These are people I love to death. Our staff loves them, and yeah, the people make mistakes. And what's an opportunity to make a mistake? It's an opportunity to discipline them and correct it. I do take offense when people say, "Well, we didn't do things. We didn't." Did Brenden James he bought marijuana? Did we discipline him? Hell yeah, we did. Did Chris Rainey send out some nonsense text? I saw someone say, and he played the next week. No, he missed 6 games for sending a text message. 6 games. So there was obviously punishment dished out. I didn't make it public. I didn't make it public when a kid failed a drug test. You know why? Because it's no one's business. When I saw that somewhere, someone asked me about, well, you did tell the media when someone passed a drug test. And I was like, why in the world would I tell you? That's between the university and the player. And so I'm pleased with the way it turned out. I'm pleased with, obviously, we all look back and say, boy, I wish I would have done that a little differently. But for the most part, I'm very proud of those players and what they did.
2 things. Did I hear you say at the end of that last series, which I thought the last part was gave me chills, so listen to some of them. But when you said at the end, you talked about that something you said you would like to have the opportunity to apologize someday. I don't even remember what it was about. What was that?
Just the way it ended, just the way the abrupt ending and I was in a battle just thinking that my health was in serious, and I believe it was. I look back now, I know it was, but you give everything you can to that place. The infrastructure was so strong, the strength coach, the recruiting, the people. And I think we went 8-5 the last year, won our last bowl game. And I thought, someone else can come in and even build upon what we did here. I'm not made for duration. I figured that out after just my career to last for. That's why, you see guys like Saban and Dabo and some of these guys go for 15, 18 years. Bob Stoops went 18 years. But I was one of those guys that, man, I burned hot. And I mean, to the point where exhaustion and can't almost not get out of bed. So I knew it was, the reason I said that is just the way it ended. I wish it would have carried on. I wish it would have,
Sure.
I read somewhere where they haven't won a championship, and Gators deserve that. Gators deserve to win.
Yeah, Tim's lying about it. There's a number missing up there. That team was so good. But you pissed off Alabama the year before, and they didn't forget about it for 365 days. And people, it was a very important point in there. If I'm talking too much, I apologize. But you and Nick Saban were like neck and neck. Even some of your enemies said that if you came in there and won that game and won 3 national championships, who knows what might have happened. And I'm sure your legacy is certainly fine. I mean, nothing wrong with 3 national championships, no flies on that. But I mean, really, and the way you dominated Alabama that one year without Percy Harvin, I might add, that day, you were right up there. You were at the top of the food chain as the guy. But let me say this, and doing this book again, I'm not plugging it because you can't buy them anymore because they're gone. But the deal is that your friend, you gave me a list of people. Who can I talk to about your career? You gave me everybody, your relatives, your friends, your best friend in life. And I talked to them. I've interviewed probably hundreds of people about this. Your best friend told me, you don't have to worry about Urban leaving to go to the NFL or any place else. He'll probably keel over on the sidelines.
Ooh.
That's what he said. And so and you know what? You did a few times, Keeler on the sidelines. But the ultimate goal, and the thing that makes me laugh when people think they know, to say Urban Meyer just faked an illness. I don't get that. It's crazy. Anyway, some of my friends. One more thing, and I know I'm a homer. I'm an Urban Meyer fan, and so everybody thinks I'm just going to say all good things, which I do because you're my friend and I admire you a lot. But the fact is that when someone writes this is going to really piss you off, and it pissed me off. Somebody wrote a column that said, "You use the death of a player to cover up what you were doing." I mean, really? I mean, go ask Shelley about that when that happened, Avery Atkins. It tore your guts out, and you couldn't hardly get over it. And Shelley said to you, Urban, you can't save them all. And you changed how you did and you talked about it in the special. There are two ways to do this. One's fix it, one's wipe it off, whatever, and get rid of the kid. And you said wiping that one off the board. There's only one way. And the thing about it is that Saban does a lot of the same stuff. He does some of the same that you did because you said, I'll never do this to a kid again because you felt so bad about it. So speak on that, will you?
Yeah, I don't like to acknowledge someone that writes an article or something. That the best thing going is I would never read something like that or whoever wrote that. That's just someone that has no concept of what went on and the reality of what name a coach that's successful that doesn't give players second chance. It's amazing. And you're looking at certain programs out there right now that are going through a lot of stuff, and we had far too many issues that some extremely minor and some serious. The serious ones were dealt with, but that to this day. I'm almost 60 years old, and it still stings that you just keep thinking back, because you talk about a beautiful player now, a beautiful person. I mean, it was my daughter's favorite player. That tells you how close he was to our family. He was at our house all the time, and then you just saw the anguish that player was going through. I tell the story about when I got him back, and he picked me up. I was walking out to go take a jog in Florida. I see him pull up in his car, and I jumped in his car with us. Let's drive for a little while. We drove around for 20 minutes. I missed my workout because I had to go back to work, but I just sat there for 20 minutes and talking to him. And I looked over and I saw a tear rolling down his cheek. I could tell. And I just, we had him have professional help. We had him see a counselor. We were trying to work through that, but the enormous stress that was all over him. And then he left. And then, 6-7 months later is when we found out. But he went silent on us, And so, I mean, I'm sharing probably too much about someone that we all loved. But once again, this is not in response to someone writing something that evil like that. That's not what this is all about.
Coach.
Let me say one more thing, Brenden, before you jump in there. I'm going to say, and I know you want to ask Coach a question on this subject, because last night on our program, Fran Spirit, who does the show with us, he began talking about Avery. He knew him pretty well. He started crying on the show.
This just shows, I guess, it's a nice lead into my question is that I followed your career, obviously, and being the son of Buddy Martin, and I've read the book several times, and I'm a Gator fan, right? But the idea of the beginning of the Swamp Kings, were just talking about how you became the head coach at University of Florida, and then you made them your players take off all the Florida gear, right? And taught these guys, what you said in the documentary about what you had to earn the right to wear Florida across your chest. I thought that was such a neat thing that's a great way to start this whole, piece, because it always seemed like you were interested in the shaping of young men than you really were winning games. And I think you always took that, I know, along your career to be one of the most important things that you did. Could you talk about that a little bit? Because I think maybe if anything was missed in that, was you weren't obsessed with winning as much as you were more obsessed about making these players a good people and raising young men. And I think I don't want that to be missed.
Yeah, so much of that is special forces training, special forces culture. I studied them nonstop, whether it be Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, Green Beret. I was friends with many of them. I took a USO trip. I studied it relentlessly, and I always thought that to create this piece of steel, a Florida football team, Ohio State football team, you need to have the toughest, most rugged, most committed people, because what you're going to face during the course of the year is going to be really, really hard. Michael Jordan said it best. The reason he goes down in history as one of the hardest, maybe the hardest practice players, and I confirm that. I knew one of the coaches on the staff of the Chicago Bulls. He held everybody accountable. Practices were relentless. He never lost a sprint, and that's my idea. I wanted this piece of steel as we went into the game. To me, that's unfair. That's unfair if you have a team that's not built on the crucible of training, that was built with heat, built with fire, built with commitment. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day, you're at LSU. How are you going to survive that? Or go to Tuscaloosa? How are you going to survive that? And we didn't survive all of them, but we survived a lot of them. And to this day, first, I know it's right. It's science, it's history, it's the way the human mind works, is if you are focused, if you're committed, and I mean, if you got a brotherhood within that locker room, that's a hard team to beat. And I think first of all, I don't think, I know that's when you see teams win Super Bowls, when you see teams win national championships. Of course, it's talent. The most undersung group is the assistant coaches. But the real reason is because they're so physically and mentally tough that they can't be broken.
Percy Harvin, greatest that ever played?
I think he's the greatest player ever. I don't know enough about the NFL, but he's the greatest player that I've witnessed in my lifetime put on a helmet. And I don't think it's even close. And he had some injuries along his journey. I think he would have been a Pro Football Hall of Famer had he continued. And, he got banged up a lot. But I've never witnessed, and I've coached, Zeke Elliott's to Nick, the same level of Nick Bosa and Zeke Elliott, Joey Bosa, some of those guys, and I miss Mike Thomas, and there's so many great ones. But what that kid did, and physically, think about this: Percy Harvin was one of the most violent runners with the ball in his hand. You never saw him get hit. You never really saw Percy.
So smooth. It was
So his vision, he was so innate, his instinctive with the ball in his hand.
Amazing player. I know we're going over our time, Urban. I appreciate you doing this. I got to get a couple more in before you go. I want to talk about the day that you quit, and Mickey Marotti said to you, "Let's walk back to the stadium." And you were already having some second thoughts about it because Jeremy Foley had said, "Look, you can stay here. We'll get you administrative help. We'll be fine. Take some time off." This is Mickey's story, and I think it's pretty accurate. Mickey said he walked into the stadium, and looked up on the facade, and there's that 208 team, 2008. Wasn't that a great team, Urban? Yeah, it really was a great team. Oh gosh, Tim's Heisman. Look at that, man. And he began regaling you all these stories, which he knew was going to touch your heart, right? And you thought about, I don't know, put words in your mouth. Number one, all those, but secondly, the families that would be affected by your decision, they would have to go take a job someplace else. And in the next 24 hours, you changed your mind. Tell me about that.
Yeah, these are hard questions. I thought we were going to talk about the Gators, but that's all right. No, that's absolutely correct. What happened, and when you leave a place, you see the head coach gets far too much credit. When you see the assistant coaches and the players that you recruited, and you're like, wait a minute. I knew I was in crisis. I knew I just didn't feel right. I felt something was seriously wrong. And for the best, the most important people, my 3 children, my wife, is, let's take a breath here. And then I started in my mind talking. I went and talked to Jeremy about any solutions. And he saw me. He saw what was going on. And we just went, I believe, 13-1, 26-2, just missed another national title. But I was a train wreck. And I started thinking about Nancy, the strength staff, the training staff, all these people that put so much into it. And, the new coach has a right and a privilege to bring in whoever he wants. So here you wake up one day and you're 26-2 and you're out of work, and that ripped me apart. And the players that you brought into the program, it just ripped me apart, and I mean ripped me apart. And then I went up and we had a long conversation with Jeremy.
Well, story. Okay, I know you got to go, but here's the thing. Here's what's amazing. You come full circle now. 19 years ago, you took a Utah team to number 4 in the nation, and you would have been in the playoffs under today's format with Utah. Turned out pretty well for you with a bowl game. What you did. Now we come full circle, symmetrical. Here are the Florida Gators and Utah Utes
Ooh.
coming together next week on the national game. Both your teams. And it's a tribute to you that, look, you left your mark. I call Rice Eccles the house Urban built. I know the other coaches did a great thing, but that was your place, man. That's where you made your bones. What does that feel like for you, looking now at this game Thursday night and what these two teams represent?
I just wish we had it. I was pushing so hard at Fox to get that game because I think it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be. I've studied this one because obviously love the Gators and love the Utes, and I want to see. It's going to be. I hope no one's going to ask me to pick because I can't. It's going to be who's going to be a quarterback. Cam Rising, the quarterback at Utah, had a tough injury, an injury that takes longer than I don't know. I don't believe he'll be ready. And I've not talked to Kyle about it. I don't want to be that guy that has inside information and then I get asked. So I have not talked to him about it. I actually went and played golf and hung out with Kyle and Morgan Scally this summer. They feel good about their team. They feel great about their program. The Gators, I just don't know a lot about. They've had a lot of transition. It's going to be the quarterback. If it's Mertz, who I recruited out of high school, and he started Wisconsin so strong. I thought, here we go, man. This guy's going to be an All-American, and it never happened. Does that mean give up on him? No. You see it all the time. They go to a different environment. You surround them with really good players, and all of a sudden this quarterback becomes a monster. It's going to be whoever plays better at quarterback in this game. Utah is a tough place to go play. It's a mile-high altitude that does impact teams. I'll never forget we played North Carolina one year, put almost 700 yards of offense on them. And I talked to guys on the staff later on. They said their kids were blown out. We went up-tempo, no huddle, and so that is a concern is if they can hang, they're coming from extreme humidity, extreme heat to altitude and no humidity. And all you got to do is get off a plane and go walk around when you hit, that altitude. It changes you a little bit. So I don't know their travel schedule. I hope they go out there a day early and get a little more acclimated. And it's going to be whoever's quarterback plays better.
And by the way, did you use that altitude? Because I was in Denver. That was the thing that the basketball team Nuggets used a lot. They pushed the ball real hard. Did you use that on your scheme?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you played someone, we studied where the team was coming from. We had Texas A&M come to play us early in the year, and we played very well. If it's a team from, the similar altitude, no, we didn't even consider that. But, yeah, when you're bringing someone, it's like when you get someone come down to the swamp. If you had the northern teams don't usually come down there, but when they do, I remember Wyoming, our first year, I said, oh my gosh, there's no way they're going to melt in this heat and this humidity. So, yeah, you always give that consideration.
Which is worse, altitude or humidity and heat?
I think humidity and heat. I think that melts you like butter.
Yeah. You think, Coach, because I grew up in Colorado, going back and forth, and I worked in covering NBA and for years, and coaches would say come out a day or two before to acclimate. Is that enough, do you think, for an athlete to really acclimate? Because it was always to me like 72 hours before you can even start breathing normal when you walked up a flight of stairs.
I think in a perfect world, you'd have more time. The world's not perfect, so I'm not sure they're in school, they're in classes. Right. You have to have logistics of where to practice because those are 2 good prep days. So I've always done it a day, but I'm trying to think in my career if I've had to do that, go to altitude. I don't believe I have coming from sea level to altitude. I've been there coaching at Colorado State and coaching at Utah. That hits you right square in the jaw.
Yeah. Final thing, Coach Meyer, Urban, we can't thank you enough for giving us this time. And we're excited about getting together with our Best Fridays in Football show. If we can just talk about that for a second. Hopefully we can start it next Friday if all goes well. we'll be talking about Utah and Florida probably the next day. So we're going to do this every Saturday, and we've been doing this a while. And our idea is to celebrate the game of college football and all it represents. And I love that you come in, that you're doing this show. By the way, talk about the show, Big Noon Saturday, and how you guys are going to be live at the locations and your partners. You got a new one this year. Give us a little preview of what to expect.
Yeah, I love our show, buddy. And like I said, we get asked to do a lot of things, and it's kind of cool to be at my point in my life. I just pick, Buddy Martin, and to spend time with you. I do that once a week anyway. So, number one, that Big Noon Kickoff has been a big success. Ratings went all over the top last year. We have Mark Ingram's joining us from Alabama. We got to see him up close and personal. We beat him one year, and he beat us pretty good the second year. Had, I think, 180 all-purpose yards. He is a great guy. I love him. He's a type A, because Reggie Bush was type A. The fans loved him. We need Mark, Brady Quinn, Matt Leinart, and Rob Stone. We have incredible producers. Once again, I'm very biased, but I think it's a great show. It's football. It's football. We have fun with it, but we want to teach the viewers something, and we want to give them relative expertise. You have Matt and Brady that were great quarterbacks. You got Mark Ingram's a Heisman Trophy winner, and we're going to take you in the locker room. We're going to take you on the field. We're going to go in pretty depth about the game. Great game.
You and Tebow swap any notes about how to do TV while you were getting. Tim's doing pretty well too.
He is. So is Dan. Dan Mullen's doing a heck of a job.
Yeah.
How about that guy?
Yeah.
He looked like he found a spot there for himself. Did a good job on the video on the Swamp Kings. Once again, congratulations on a tremendous job. And you didn't know either what was going to be in it. People think, well, Irvin did this. No, it was a really good story about the inside of the football team. With not only did you have the stars and Spikes and Styler and Tebow and other people, but that footage was remarkable. And folks, if you have not seen it, you're missing out on something. You can say all you want to about the haters, go on and get it over with. But if you like football, you won't get a look like this again anytime soon. So congratulations for the success.
Thanks, buddy. Great to be with you.
Appreciate it, Coach Meyer.
Thanks, Coach. Well, that was pretty awesome, buddy. Pretty awesome.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Thanks to Coach Meyer for participating. By the way, we know his audio is a little bit low. We're at these things we're doing our best. Coach takes time out of his day to sit down with us for when he does, and look, if he flips on his computer and we get video, we're happy to get whatever we can get.
We can't worry about it,
and we're not going to worry about it. But I'll try
to. How many interviews you did on that? One.
So
I'm happy with whatever it is.
Well, we record these things. I'll probably re-release a fixed audio version of that. So, but that's a preview of what's to come here on the Buddy Martin Show on Fridays. Best
Fridays in football. Dude.
Yeah, best Fridays in football. Thanks. We just wanted it to be live. I think Urban might be doing a presser or something after this. We don't know.
I don't care. We got our interview. We're good.
Yeah. Good. High five, bud. Come on.
All right. Good job, buddy.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go. High five.
Thanks to our sponsors.
Yeah. Smash the subscribe button down in the right side. Thanks, Melvin Law.
WinStar and Titan MRI.
Titan MRI. Thanks for everybody. And for you subscribers, 62% of you who aren't subscribing, smash the subscribe button down on the right-hand side. Thanks for everybody to come out. We are off for the weekend, I believe, buddy. So we may or may not see you, but you never know when these pop-ups are going to come in. And, some hugely famous, guest like one of Buddy's friends will come on. That's how he does. So, hey, thanks for watching, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.
Love you, son.